I, Amanda, 34 years old, stood frozen in my own hallway as my brother's wife Natalie cheerfully announced, "We're renovating your master bedroom before moving in." The family home I'd inherited after my parents died was being invaded. Ryan and Natalie were only supposed to stay temporarily while their house sold. But I just discovered they'd already gutted my master bedroom without permission. My parents' space. Without asking. They had no idea what renovations I had planned for them. Before I dive into this nightmare, let me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe to follow my journey of reclaiming what's mine. The two-story colonial had been my childhood home for 34 years. Every corner held memories, from height markers penciled on the kitchen doorframe to the window seat in the master bedroom, where Mom would read to me during thunderstorms. When my parents died in a car accident 8 months ago, the grief nearly swallowed me whole. Their loss left an emptiness no amount of sympathy casseroles could fill. The timing couldn't have been worse. 2 weeks after the funeral, my marketing firm announced downsizing. My position of 6 years disappeared in a 10-minute meeting with HR. Suddenly, I was unemployed and orphaned at 34. Despite my financial advisor suggesting selling the house, I couldn't bear to part with it. The mortgage payments strained my savings, but this home was my last connection to Mom and Dad. I'd pick up freelance marketing work where I could while job hunting, eating ramen if necessary, but I would keep their home. Through those first devastating months, my older brother Ryan seemed like my rock. 3 years my senior, he'd always been protective. He helped arrange the funeral, stayed late organizing paperwork, and checked in regularly. I was grateful, especially since we'd grown somewhat distant after he married Natalie 5 years ago. Natalie had always been polite enough, though something about her smile never quite reached her eyes. She had a talent for delivering backhanded compliments that left you feeling slightly worse than before. "That outfit is so brave for your body type," or "Your career in marketing is perfect for someone who enjoys creativity over advancement." Still, she brought expensive casseroles after the funeral and helped clean out some of Mom's clothes, so I made allowances. Family is family, after all. The first red flags appeared about 6 months after my parents' death. Natalie began dropping by unannounced, often when Ryan wasn't with her. During these visits, she'd make little comments. "This wallpaper is so vintage. Most people would have updated it years ago, but there's something charming about keeping things exactly the same, isn't there?" Or, "These kitchen cabinets remind me of my grandmother's house before they moved her to assisted living." I brushed it off as Natalie being Natalie. She'd always been house-proud about their renovated split level in Oakwood Heights. Then came the conversation that changed everything. Ryan called on a Tuesday evening, his voice overly casual. "Hey sis, got a minute? So, our realtor thinks we could get a much better price for the house with some updates, which means we need to move out while the work happens. We've already got a couple interested, but they want to close quickly." "That's great news," I said, genuinely happy for them. "Yeah, about that. We were wondering if we could stay with you. Just for 2 to 3 months max while our house sells and we find a new place." I hesitated. The thought of sharing my grieving space made my stomach clench. Ryan continued before I could respond. "We'd contribute to expenses, of course. How about $800 a month? And Natalie's a whiz at organization. She could help you finally sort through Mom and Dad's things." The mention of money swayed me. My freelance work wasn't consistent, and an extra $800 monthly would ease the financial pressure. "I guess that would be okay. The guest room has its own bathroom, so you'd have some privacy." "You're the best, sis. We'll be model house guests, promise." Moving day arrived the following weekend. I expected a couple of suitcases. What pulled up was a rental truck. Ryan and Natalie had brought furniture, kitchen appliances, and enough clothes to open a boutique. "We thought it would be easier to bring essentials rather than storing everything," Ryan explained as they unloaded a sectional sofa that definitely wouldn't fit in the guest room. I swallowed my objections and helped direct traffic. They were family, this was temporary, and I needed the money. The next afternoon, I returned early from a promising job interview. The house was quiet, so I assumed Ryan and Natalie were out. As I headed upstairs to change, I heard movement in my parents' bedroom. My bedroom now. I pushed open the door to find Natalie with a measuring tape, assessing the walls. Blueprints and color swatches were spread across my bed. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Natalie didn't even look startled. "Oh, Amanda. You're back early. I was just taking measurements for the renovation. This room has so much potential." "Renovation? This is my bedroom. Nobody's renovating anything." "Well, Ryan and I thought since it's so much larger than the guest room, it made more sense for us to take this one. The furniture you have is so outdated anyway. We'd be doing you a favor upgrading it while we're here." I stood speechless as she continued measuring, talking about knocking out a wall to expand the closet space. When Ryan came home, Natalie immediately pulled him in. "Honey, Amanda's upset about our surprise. I told her how we wanted to modernize the master bedroom as a thank you." Ryan put his arm around me. "It would really be an improvement, sis. That furniture is ancient, and the layout is inefficient. Natalie has a great eye for design. That furniture was custom-made for Mom and Dad," I said through clenched teeth. "And this is my house. Nobody's redesigning anything without my permission." "You're being oversensitive," Natalie said with practiced concern. "It's just furniture. Wouldn't your parents want the house to evolve rather than becoming a shrine?" That night, after hours of argument disguised as discussion, I compromised. Ryan and Natalie would use the guest room as planned, and no renovations would happen without my explicit approval. Ryan looked relieved at the resolution, while Natalie's tight smile promised this wasn't over. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd just barely protected my parents' memory from being erased. Little did I know, this was just the beginning. The next 2 weeks brought a slow-motion invasion. Each day, another piece of my home seemed to transform without my consent. Family photos disappeared from side tables, replaced by Natalie's modern glass sculptures. The hand-knit throw my grandmother made vanished from the living room sofa, swapped for a cream-colored designer blanket that was more aesthetically cohesive, according to Natalie. When I confronted her about moving my things, she'd respond with wide-eyed innocence. "I just tidied up a bit. Your things are perfectly safe in that drawer/closet/box in the basement." Ryan, meanwhile, became increasingly unavailable for these conversations. He left early for work, came home late, and spent weekends checking on renovations at their house. When I did manage to corner him, he'd shrug off my concerns. "Natalie's just trying to help, Amanda. The house does look cleaner with less clutter." "It's not clutter, Ryan. It's my life. My memories. Maybe it's time to make new memories instead of living in the past," he'd say before finding a reason to leave the room. On a Wednesday evening, about 3 weeks into their stay, I was heading to the kitchen when I overheard Ryan on the phone in the sunroom. He was speaking quietly, but the old heating vent carried his words clearly. "We need to tell her eventually. No, I know we said the house was on the market, but since the foundation issues came up." "Yes, I know it was weeks ago. Look, she's my sister. I can't keep lying to her about this." "Fine. We'll talk when I get home." I stood frozen, the pieces clicking into place. Their house wasn't actively being sold. They'd lied about the whole situation. When Ryan ended the call, I walked into the sunroom, phone evidence in hand. "How long have you known your house isn't selling?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Ryan's face fell. He rubbed his hands over his eyes, suddenly looking exhausted. "About 3 weeks before we moved in," he admitted. "The inspector found foundation problems that would cost almost $50,000 to fix. We can't afford that right now." "So you lied to me? You said you had buyers lined up." I know. I'm sorry, Amanda. Things have been tough. Natalie's spending, it got out of control. We're underwater on the mortgage, maxed out on credit cards. I didn't know how to tell you. By using your words like an adult. Not by manipulating me and letting your wife slowly take over my house." Ryan looked genuinely remorseful. "You're right. I should have been honest. It's just, you've always been the responsible one. The successful one." It was humiliating to admit how badly I've screwed up. His vulnerability cracked my anger. This was my big brother, the one who taught me to ride a bike, who threatened my high school boyfriend when he made me cry. We were all each other had left now. "How bad is it really?" I asked. The truth spilled out. Ryan had lost his job 6 months ago and had been doing gig work to keep up appearances. Natalie had continued spending as if nothing had changed, racking up debt. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage. "I'll get Natalie under control," he promised. "No more redecorating. No more taking over. Just give us a little more time to sort things out." "Please, Amanda." Against my better judgment, I agreed. Family loyalty runs deep, and I couldn't bear to throw them out knowing they had nowhere to go. That night, I set clear boundaries. They could stay 3 more months with the $800 monthly contribution. No changes to the house without explicit permission. My parents' bedroom remained off limits. For about a week, things improved. Then Natalie began pushing boundaries again, but in ways just small enough that confronting her made me seem petty. Using my expensive face creams and leaving them empty. Borrowing my laptop without asking. Rearranging the kitchen cabinets for better flow. The breaking point came when I walked into my bedroom after work and found Natalie sitting at my mother's vanity, trying on her jewelry. My mother's jewelry box was a sacred object. Hand-carved maple with her initials inlaid in mother of pearl. Dad had given it to her on their 20th anniversary. The contents were mostly sentimental rather than valuable. Her wedding set, a locket with my baby photo, the pearl earrings she wore to every special occasion. Natalie had everything spread across the vanity, the box open and drawers pulled out. She was wearing Mom's pearl necklace and trying on her sapphire ring, the one Dad gave her when I was born. "What are you doing?" My voice came out in a horrified whisper. Natalie jumped slightly, then relaxed when she saw me. "These were just sitting here gathering dust. I wanted to see how they looked. Your mom had some nice pieces. Take them off. Now." My hands shook with rage. "Don't be so dramatic, Amanda. I wasn't stealing them. Besides, your mother would probably love knowing her things were being appreciated rather than locked away." "You didn't know my mother. You have no right to speak for her or touch her things." The argument escalated until Ryan heard us from downstairs. When he entered, Natalie immediately turned on the waterworks. I was just admiring Janet's jewelry, and Amanda started screaming at me. I've tried so hard to be understanding about her grief, but it's been 8 months. At some point, life has to go on. Ryan put his arm around her. "Sis, I know Mom's things are important to you, but Natalie didn't mean any harm. Maybe you're still holding too tightly to the past." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious right now? She was wearing Mom's jewelry without permission. How would you feel if I went through Dad's watches?" "That's different," Ryan said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. How? How is it different?" "You're being too emotional about objects," he said. "They're just things, Amanda. Get out of my room. Both of you." I pointed to the door, my arm rigid with anger. After they left, I carefully returned each piece to its proper place in the jewelry box, then locked it and hid the key. That night, I researched small safes online. 2 days later, the final straw broke. I came home to find Natalie had cleaned the living room. In the process, she'd knocked over the crystal vase my parents had received as a wedding gift. Instead of telling me, she'd swept the pieces into the trash and placed a modern glass vase in its spot. I only discovered the truth when I took out the garbage and saw the distinctive blue crystal fragments. When confronted, Natalie shrugged it off as an unfortunate accident, but insisted the new vase worked better with the room's energy anyway. That night, I laid down explicit, written rules about touching anything that had belonged to my parents. I taped the list to the refrigerator, had them both read it, and made them verbally agree. The very next day, Natalie moved my father's favorite reading chair to open up the conversation area. When I pointed to the list, she laughed and said, "Oh, I didn't realize that old chair was actually your dad's. It looked like something from a thrift store." I was beginning to realize no boundary would be respected, but I had no idea how far they would go. By the 6th weekend of Ryan and Natalie's stay, I desperately needed space. My college roommate Lindsay had been inviting me to visit her in Chicago for months, and I finally accepted. Just 2 nights away to clear my head and gain perspective. "Are you sure you'll be okay without me?" I asked Ryan on Friday morning, still feeling oddly responsible despite everything. "We'll be fine. Might even surprise you with dinner when you get back Sunday, he said with a smile that almost reminded me of my old brother. Throughout Saturday, Natalie sent multiple texts about surprise home improvements they were making. I assumed she meant something minor, perhaps finally fixing the squeaky step or touching up paint in the hallway. When she sent, "You won't recognize the place when you get back," my anxiety spiked. I texted Ryan but received vague reassurances that everything was fine. By Sunday afternoon, a sense of dread had settled in my stomach. I made an excuse to Lindsay and caught an earlier train home, arriving around 6 p.m. instead of the planned 9 p.m. The house looked normal from the outside, but when I opened the front door, I heard unfamiliar voices upstairs along with the distinctive sounds of demolition, hammering, drilling, the crash of debris. I raced up the stairs to find my worst fears manifested in dust and destruction. The door to my parents' bedroom, my bedroom, was propped open, revealing chaos within. The beautiful cherrywood furniture my father had custom-built for my mother was gone. The walls that had been a soft sage green were partially demolished, with exposed studs and electrical wiring. The window seat where I'd spent countless hours reading was a splintered ruin. Two men in work clothes were taking measurements while Natalie stood in the center of the devastation, clipboard in hand. "What have you done?" My voice came out as a strangled whisper. Natalie turned, momentarily startled, then recovered with a bright smile. "Amanda, you're home early. Surprise. We're finally updating this dated space. Where's my parents' furniture? Where are their things?" I pushed past her to check the closets, which had been emptied. "We've put some pieces in storage, but honestly, most of it wasn't worth saving. That bedroom set was so heavy and old-fashioned. We've ordered a beautiful modern platform bed that will make this room feel twice as large." "You had no right." I was shaking now, scanning the room for any trace of my parents' belongings. "Where's my mother's vanity? Her rocking chair?" The vanity had water damage on the bottom drawers. "Not salvageable. The rocking chair is in the garage for now." "Really, Amanda, you should be thanking us. This renovation would cost thousands if you hired professionals." Ryan appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable but not surprised. "You're back early. We wanted to have more progress to show you." "Progress? You've destroyed my parents' bedroom without permission. Where's their furniture?" Ryan exchanged a glance with Natalie before answering. "Some of it's in the garage, but Natalie sold a few pieces that were too damaged to keep." "Sold? Sold? That furniture was irreplaceable." Natalie stepped forward with her renovation plans, literally, blueprints spread across a folding table where my bed used to be. "Look at what we're creating. A walk-in closet here, a spa-like bathroom renovation there. The contractors can finish within 3 weeks." "What contractors? I never approved this." I turned to the workers. "Please stop. This work isn't authorized." The men looked confused, then gathered their tools. "We'll come back when you folks sort this out," one said as they made a hasty exit. Once they left, the full extent of the violation became clear. Not only had they gutted my bedroom, but Natalie proudly showed me online listings where she'd sold my parents' bedroom set, claiming the proceeds would offset renovation costs. I got $750 for that heavy old dresser, and another $500 for those outdated nightstands. People love vintage now, though I can't imagine why. I pushed past them to the garage, where I found remnants of my parents' belongings piled haphazardly. My mother's vanity was nowhere to be seen. The rocking chair had a broken arm. Back inside, my shock gave way to fury. "How could you do this? This is my house. We thought you'd be happy with the upgrade," Ryan said weakly. "The master suite was so outdated." "It wasn't outdated. It was my parents' room, with their furniture that Dad built for Mom when they got married." "Well, it's too late now," Natalie said with a shrug. "The old furniture is gone, and the demolition has started. We might as well continue. You'll love it when it's finished, much more suited to a single woman your age." I was speechless with rage and grief. I retreated to the guest bathroom, locking the door behind me, trying to breathe through the panic attack threatening to overwhelm me. Through the heating vent, I could hear them talking in the hallway. "She's overreacting," Natalie said. "Once it's done, she'll see it's an improvement." "I don't know, Nat. This was too much, too fast. We should have asked her. Asked her? She would have said no. She's been impossible about every little change. Besides, this is part of the plan, remember? Once we show her she can't afford the renovation costs, we can suggest she sign the house over to us. She can't manage this place financially anyway, and we need somewhere to live. I don't feel right manipulating my sister like this. Do you want to go back to our house with its $50,000 foundation problem? Or live in some tiny apartment? This house should stay in the family, and we're family. Amanda can find a little condo that's more her size. It makes perfect sense. There was a long pause before Ryan responded. I guess you're right. She really can't afford to keep this place on her own. That night, after hours of arguing that resolved nothing, I slept on the couch, unable to face the guest room and unwilling to look at the destruction of my parents' space. I cried until there were no tears left, clutching the one photo of my parents I'd managed to hide from Natalie's decluttering. As the first light of dawn crept through the windows, something hardened inside me. This was my home, my legacy. And if Ryan and Natalie wanted renovations so badly, I would show them exactly what that meant. The morning after discovering my destroyed bedroom, I called in sick to my new marketing job. Once Ryan and Natalie left for the day, I began researching tenant laws in our state. Since they were paying me monthly, a landlord-tenant relationship could be established, but I discovered that without a formal lease, they had significantly fewer protections. I called my law school friend Jessica during her lunch break. They did what? She exclaimed after I explained the situation. That's destruction of property, plain and simple. Without your permission, they had no right to modify the home, much less sell your belongings. What are my options? I asked, taking detailed notes. Since there's no formal lease, you have several. You could file a police report for the theft and destruction of property. You could formally evict them, which typically takes 30 days in this state. Or you could make life uncomfortable enough that they choose to leave voluntarily. What about their claim that they've invested in renovations? Without your written approval, any modifications they made are legally considered gifts to the property owner, you. They can't demand reimbursement for unauthorized changes. Jessica also warned me about squatters' rights and advised documenting everything from this point forward. Take photos, save texts, record conversations if legal in your state. And whatever you do, don't accept any more money from them without a written agreement. After our call, I drove to the hardware store with a growing plan in mind. On the way, I called Tom, my ex-boyfriend who owned a small construction company. We'd ended things amicably 2 years ago when his business required relocation to the next town over. We'd remained friendly, occasionally meeting for coffee to catch up. This is going to sound strange, I began after explaining the bedroom destruction, but I need your professional opinion on some renovations. Tom listened to the entire story without interruption, his construction expertise adding valuable insight. What they've done creates several safety hazards. Exposed wiring, possible structural issues if they removed load-bearing elements. I'd need to see it, but it sounds like amateur work that could devalue the house. Could you come by tomorrow when they're at work? I need to document everything properly and understand what I'm dealing with. I'll bring my assistant. We'll do a full assessment, take photos, and help you figure out next steps. That evening, I carefully photographed every room in the house, creating evidence of the current condition before implementing my plan. I was particularly thorough with the destroyed master bedroom, documenting each piece of missing furniture with photos from previous family gatherings that showed what had been there. I also set up my phone to record when Ryan and Natalie discussed their renovation plans that evening, capturing Natalie's saying, "Once the contractors finish gutting the bathroom, we'll need to convince Amanda to contribute to the materials. When she can't afford it, that's when we suggest she sign over the house to us instead." The next day, Tom arrived with his assistant and spent 3 hours assessing the damage. His conclusions were worse than I expected. They've removed a portion of wall that provides structural support for the bathroom above. That's not just bad renovation, it's dangerous. And the electrical work they've started doesn't meet code. You'd never pass inspection like this. Tom estimated it would cost at least $15,000 to properly repair the damage they'd caused, not including replacing the furniture. I can help you fix this right, Amanda. But first, you need to deal with your brother and his wife. While Tom was there, I received a call from Margaret, a family friend and real estate agent who had known my parents for decades. I'd contacted her the previous evening. Amanda, honey, I've been looking into what you asked. Your parents' house has appreciated significantly in the last few years. In today's market, it's worth about $485,000. If you needed to sell, you could pay off the remaining mortgage and have a substantial down payment for something smaller. This information was crucial to my plan. I wasn't in as dire financial straits as Ryan and Natalie believed. While the house was a stretch on my current income, my new marketing position came with a significant raise. Combined with the occasional freelance work, I could manage the payments. Margaret also shared something disturbing. Natalie called me last month asking about listing the house. She said you were struggling emotionally after your parents' death and had asked them to handle selling the property. I thought it seemed odd, which is why I called you directly instead of proceeding. My blood ran cold. Natalie had been laying groundwork, telling people I was unstable after my parents' death. How many others had she manipulated with this narrative? Over the next 2 days, I pieced together more disturbing information. My cousin mentioned Natalie had told her I was having trouble coping and might need family intervention. My uncle had heard I was making poor financial decisions out of sentimentality. The picture became clear. Natalie had been systematically undermining me to our family while presenting herself and Ryan as the responsible ones stepping in to help. With Tom's help, I did some research into Natalie's background. What we discovered was illuminating. This wasn't her first housing renovations situation. She had a pattern of moving in with people and gradually taking over. Her previous boyfriend had ended up selling his condo after she'd improved it beyond recognition. Before Ryan, she lived with an elderly aunt whose home underwent similar unauthorized updates until the aunt moved to assisted living. More concerning, we found evidence of significant financial problems beyond what Ryan had admitted. Natalie had maxed out credit cards in both her name and Ryan's. There were collection notices for unpaid store cards. They weren't just temporarily short on cash, they were drowning in debt. Tom's assistant, who had an accounting background, helped me track down something even more damning. Through online marketplace accounts, we found evidence that Natalie had been systematically selling items from my house, not just the bedroom furniture, but small valuables that had disappeared over the weeks. My father's rare coin collection. My mother's first edition books. Even kitchen appliances I'd thought were just misplaced. Armed with this knowledge, I began preparing my renovation supplies. Tom provided legitimate construction materials at cost. I purchased specific items that would be useful for my plan. Each evening, I documented more of Ryan and Natalie's conversations about their plans for my house, building an irrefutable case. By Friday, exactly 1 week after the bedroom destruction, I had everything in place. My plan appeared generous on the surface. I would help renovate the house to make it more comfortable for all of us. But every modification was strategically designed to make Ryan and Natalie's stay increasingly uncomfortable while protecting my legal position. As Jessica advised, I created a paper trail showing I was responding reasonably to their initial renovation by continuing the process they'd started. If they complained, they would have to admit their own unauthorized modifications first. I was no longer the grieving, passive sister being manipulated out of her inheritance. They wanted renovations? I would give them renovations they'd never forget. Friday evening, I prepared a special dinner. Nothing fancy, just a gesture to set the stage. As we ate the lasagna, my mother's recipe, which felt appropriate, I casually brought up the bedroom situation. I've been thinking about the master bedroom renovation, I said, keeping my voice neutral. You're right that it needed updating. Natalie nearly choked on her wine. Really? You're not mad anymore. I was upset about the surprise, but I've had time to reflect. Actually, your project has inspired me. I'd like to help renovate the rest of the house too. Ryan looked suspicious, but relieved. That's great, sis. What did you have in mind? Well, since you've started with the bedroom, I thought I could work on other areas while you're at work. Make it a whole house refresh. I smiled, channeling Natalie's fake sweetness. In fact, I've taken Monday off to get started. That's so thoughtful, Natalie said, triumph poorly concealed behind her smile. I have so many ideas for the downstairs. I'm sure you do, I replied. But let me surprise you, the way you surprised me. Over the weekend, I remained pleasant but busy, making numerous trips to the hardware store and accepting deliveries that I stored in the garage. Ryan seemed increasingly nervous, but Natalie was practically gloating, clearly believing she'd won. Monday morning, I waited until they left for work before calling Tom. He arrived with 3 construction friends who owed him favors, all briefed on the situation and eager to help someone being taken advantage of. Let's start by documenting and securing anything valuable that's left, Tom suggested. We went room by room with a video camera, recording the current state of every space and identifying family heirlooms that needed protection. My mother's jewelry box, which I'd already hidden, was properly secured in a small safe Tom installed in the back of my closet. Other irreplaceable items, photo albums, my father's watches, remaining family silver, were carefully photographed, inventoried, and stored in a secure storage unit Tom helped me rent. By noon, the true renovations began. We started with the guest bedroom Ryan and Natalie were using. The closet doors are restrictive, I explained to Tom's crew. Let's remove them to create an open-concept storage solution. The heavy wooden doors were uninstalled and stored in the garage. Next came the ensuite bathroom. These old pipes really should be inspected, I said with exaggerated concern. Tom shut off the water to that bathroom only and removed the shower head and faucet handles for necessary maintenance. We moved to the home office Ryan had been using. Security is important for a home office, I noted as we changed the locks, keeping the only key for myself. By mid-afternoon, we addressed the entertainment system. Comprehensive rewiring is essential for modern electronics, Tom explained loudly as we disconnected the cable and internet connections in strategic locations around the house, leaving only the kitchen and living room with functioning service. We worked efficiently, making changes that created discomfort without making the house uninhabitable. Each modification was documented as continuing the renovation process initiated by the tenants in a log Jessica had helped me prepare. At 5:30 p.m., we heard Ryan's car in the driveway. Tom and his crew packed up, leaving me to handle the reveal alone. Ryan entered first, stopping abruptly in the hallway. What happened to the guest room door? I removed it to create better flow, I said cheerfully. Open concept is very now, right, Natalie? Natalie pushed past him, her expression changing from confusion to outrage as she surveyed the bedroom. The closets stood open and doorless, their clothes exposed. The bathroom door had also been removed to create a spa-like atmosphere. Where are the closet doors? And why is there no water pressure in our bathroom? She demanded. The doors are being refinished and the plumbing is being updated, I explained sweetly. Just like you're updating the master bedroom. I thought you'd appreciate the modern touches. But we can't shower without water. And anyone can see all our things with no closet doors. It's temporary, I assured her, using the exact phrase she'd used about their own demolition. You'll love it when it's finished. Much more contemporary. Ryan tried the office door, finding it locked. Amanda, I need to get my laptop. Oh, that room is undergoing security renovations. I can get things for you as needed. Natalie attempted to turn on their bedroom TV, discovering the cable was disconnected. When she tried to use the Wi-Fi, she found the password had been changed. What is this? She hissed. Some kind of joke. Not at all. It's exactly what you did to my bedroom. Improvements without warning. I thought you'd be pleased I was embracing your renovation vision for the whole house. Ryan pulled me aside while Natalie continued discovering modified features. Amanda, this isn't funny. We need our bathroom and closet doors. Funny? I wasn't trying to be funny. I'm seriously upgrading the house, just like you did by destroying Mom and Dad's bedroom and selling their furniture without permission. That night was tense. Ryan and Natalie whispered angrily in their now-too-open bedroom. I slept soundly for the first time in weeks, satisfied with phase 1 of my plan. The next morning, Natalie stormed into the kitchen. This is childish. We can't live like this. I completely understand, I said calmly. It's uncomfortable when someone makes changes to your living space without consulting you first. Really makes you feel violated, doesn't it? Ryan looked at me with dawning recognition. Unlike Natalie, he was beginning to understand exactly what I was doing and why. Over the next week, my renovations continued systematically. Each day brought new improvements that made Ryan and Natalie's living situation increasingly uncomfortable while maintaining plausible deniability about my intentions. Tuesday, I focused on the kitchen. These cabinet doors are so outdated, I announced, removing them one by one. Open shelving is the latest trend, allows for better visibility of contents. By evening, every plate, glass, and food item was exposed on doorless shelves. Wednesday morning, Tom's crew arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, beginning loud demolition work in the hallway outside Ryan and Natalie's bedroom. Natalie, who typically slept until 9, emerged in a fury. "What is that noise?" "People are trying to sleep. Construction starts early," I explained. "The crew can only come during their available hours." "Coffee?" Thursday brought plumbing inspections that mysteriously occurred whenever Natalie tried to shower. The water would shut off mid-shampoo, followed by an apologetic announcement, "Just checking the pipes. Should be back on in 15 minutes. Friday was particularly effective. As temperatures outside reached 90 degrees, the air conditioning underwent essential maintenance that rendered it inoperable during the hottest hours. I made sure to mention how energy efficient the house would be once the new system was properly calibrated. Natalie's rage grew with each improvement. She slammed doors, those that remained, shouted about conditions being unlivable, and demanded Ryan do something. Ryan, meanwhile, became increasingly quiet, spending long hours away from the house and avoiding confrontation when present. By Saturday morning, tension had reached a breaking point. Natalie had just discovered that the laundry room was now being updated, with the washer disconnected and her clean clothes piled unceremoniously on the folding table. "This is sabotage," she screamed. "You're deliberately making this house unlivable." I maintained my innocent facade. "I'm just improving the house, Natalie. Isn't that what you wanted? You said yourself the place needed updating. Not like this. This is crazy. Ryan, tell your sister she's gone too far." Ryan, who had been silently watching our exchanges all week, finally spoke up. "Can I talk to you privately, Amanda?" We went to the backyard, sitting on the old garden bench our father had built. For a long moment, Ryan just stared at the overgrown flower beds. "You know exactly what you're doing, don't you?" he finally said. "I'm renovating. Just like you and Natalie started doing." "Cut the crap, Amanda. This is revenge for the bedroom." I dropped the innocent act. "Yes, it is. How does it feel to have someone destroy your living space without permission? To have someone else decide what happens in the home you're living in?" Ryan rubbed his hands over his face. "I know we screwed up with the bedroom. But this passive-aggressive renovation war isn't solving anything. Neither is lying to me about your financial situation, letting Natalie sell my parents' belongings, or planning to manipulate me into giving you my house." His head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Natalie discussing their plan to convince me to sign over the house. Ryan's face went pale as he heard his own voice agreeing with her scheme. I can't believe I let things go this far," he whispered. "Amanda, I'm so sorry. I don't know when I became this person. When did you start letting Natalie make all your decisions? The brother I grew up with would never have destroyed Mom and Dad's bedroom or tried to steal their house from his sister." Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "After Dad died, I felt like I failed them. I wasn't here enough in their final years. Then my job fell apart, and Natalie kept pushing for a bigger house, better things. I just wanted to feel successful at something. By taking what was mine, I told myself we were helping you. That you couldn't afford this place alone, that it would be better for everyone if we took over. But that was just justification for doing something terrible." He looked up at me. "Can you ever forgive me?" "That depends on what happens next," I said, unwilling to let him off easily despite his apparent remorse. When we returned inside, Natalie was packing a suitcase. "I'm staying at a hotel until this house is livable again," she announced. "Ryan, grab your things. We need to talk first, Ryan said with unexpected firmness. Amanda knows about our plan for the house. What plan? Natalie feigned ignorance. The plan to convince her she can't afford the renovations, so she'll sign the house over to us. She has recordings, Natalie. Natalie's face flushed then paled. You were spying on us? That's an invasion of privacy. Like destroying my bedroom and selling my parents' furniture wasn't. I countered. Those were improvements. And that furniture was worthless. It wasn't yours to decide. Nothing in this house is yours to decide. My composure finally broke. You've been manipulating and gaslighting me from day one, spreading lies to our family that I'm unstable, stealing and selling my belongings, and plotting to take my house. Ryan, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Natalie demanded. Ryan stood straighter than I'd seen in months. Yes, because she's right. What we did was wrong, Natalie. All of it. Oh, please. We were doing her a favor. She can't afford this place. We need it more than she does. It's not about who needs it more. It's her house. Her inheritance. Natalie's eyes narrowed. So you're choosing her over me? Your pathetic sister who can't move on from mommy and daddy's death over your wife. I'm choosing to do the right thing, Ryan said quietly. For once. Fine. Natalie grabbed her suitcase. Enjoy your precious family home with all its memories. I'll be at the Marriott. Call me when you come to your senses. She stormed toward the door, then turned with a vindictive smile. By the way, that jewelry box you're so protective of? I already sold the sapphire ring. Got a nice price for it too. Before I could react, she slammed the door behind her. The admission hit me like a physical blow. Mom's sapphire ring, the one Dad had given her when I was born, was gone. Tears filled my eyes as the finality of that loss sank in. Ryan looked devastated. I had no idea she'd sold the ring. I swear, Amanda. Tom, who had arrived during the confrontation to continue the renovations, stepped forward. We might be able to track it down if she sold it online or to a local jeweler. Ryan nodded eagerly. I'll help. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I wasn't ready to forgive him yet, but it was a start. First, tell me everything she took and sold. Everything. That evening, Ryan and I sat at the kitchen table making a comprehensive list of everything Natalie had decluttered from the house. The extent was worse than I'd imagined. Small valuables from every room, family photos in expensive frames, even kitchen appliances I'd received as housewarming gifts. I'm so ashamed, Ryan kept saying. I knew she was moving things, but I had no idea she was selling them. Why didn't you stop her? Stand up to her? This is our parents' legacy, Ryan. I was weak. Afraid of losing her. Afraid of admitting how badly I'd failed at everything else. He looked up, his expression more like my old brother than the shadow he'd become. But that's over now. I choose family. Real family. It wasn't perfect, but it was a first step toward healing the rift between us. The next morning, Natalie returned with a demand. Ryan could stay if he wanted to play house with his sister, but she wanted her belongings immediately. Tom and his friends happened to be there, providing moral support and continuing legitimate repairs to the master bedroom. As Natalie began grabbing items, including several that clearly weren't hers, Tom stepped in. Ma'am, I'd suggest only taking things you can prove ownership of. Removing others' property could constitute theft. Mind your own business, contractor, she snapped. Actually, I'm also a witness to your admission about selling family heirlooms without permission, Tom replied calmly. Just something to consider. Natalie glared but limited herself to clothing and personal items that were legitimately hers. Before leaving, she delivered a final threat. You'll be hearing from my lawyer about the money I invested in renovations. After she left, Jessica called with reassuring news. She has no case. Without written approval from the homeowner, her unauthorized modifications are legally considered gifts to the property. And if she pushes it, we counter with theft charges for the items she sold. Ryan looked relieved but ashamed. I can't believe I was going to let her take your house. Our parents' house, I corrected. And you didn't. In the end, you made the right choice. It wasn't full forgiveness, but it was a beginning. The real work began after Natalie's dramatic exit. Physical reconstruction of the house paralleled the more difficult rebuilding of trust between Ryan and me. Tom created a detailed plan to restore the master bedroom, salvaging what could be saved and finding period-appropriate replacements for what couldn't. Ryan contributed his entire savings, a gesture that barely dented the financial damage but represented meaningful sacrifice. "I know it won't replace what was lost," he said as he handed over the check, "but I want you to know I'm committed to making this right." The bedroom reconstruction became our shared project. Each evening after work, we'd tackle another aspect together. Ryan proved surprisingly handy with basic carpentry, a skill I hadn't known he possessed. "Dad taught me when I was in high school," he explained while reinstalling baseboards. "I forgot how much I enjoyed working with my hands." Tom was there almost daily, supervising the more complex work, and I couldn't help noticing, finding reasons to stay for dinner. His steady presence provided both practical help and emotional support during a challenging time. 3 weeks after Natalie left, Ryan received divorce papers. She was demanding half the value of home improvements and any equity in our parents' house. Jessica quickly drafted a counter-response outlining the theft of family heirlooms and unauthorized destruction of property. "She's bluffing," Jessica assured us. "Her claims have no legal standing, and she knows it. She's hoping you'll settle to avoid confrontation." She was right. After one meeting with both lawyers, Natalie dropped her demands in exchange for us not pursuing criminal charges for the stolen items. Ryan agreed, just wanting to end that chapter of his life. The sapphire ring, unfortunately, proved impossible to recover. Natalie had sold it to a cash-for-gold place that had already melted it down. But Tom surprised me by tracking down my mother's vanity through an online marketplace. The buyer, upon hearing our story, agreed to sell it back at cost. The day the vanity returned home, I cried as I ran my fingers over the familiar wood grain. "Mom used to let me play with her makeup at this vanity," I told Tom. "It's one of my earliest memories." "Some things are irreplaceable," he said, his hand steady on my shoulder. "But you've saved what matters most, this home and your relationship with Ryan." As weeks became months, our lives settled into a new pattern. Ryan found an apartment nearby and a job at a local hardware store, modest work but honest and steady. He came for dinner twice weekly, gradually reclaiming the brother I remembered. Tom's presence in my life expanded beyond renovation help. Our coffee meetups became dinner dates, then weekend hikes. His straightforward nature and unwavering support during the crisis revealed a connection deeper than our previous relationship had explored. 3 months after the renovation wars, as we now jokingly called it, we celebrated the master bedroom's completion with a small gathering. Jessica came, along with other friends who'd supported us through the ordeal. The bedroom looked beautiful, not identical to before, but respectful of its history while accommodating my own style. That evening, Ryan, Tom, and I sat in the restored dining room after others had left. The conversation turned reflective over glasses of Dad's favorite whiskey. "I still can't believe how close I came to losing everything that matters," Ryan said. "Not just the house, but you, my integrity, our parents' legacy." "What was it about Natalie that made it so hard to see what was happening?" I asked, a question that had lingered for months. Ryan considered this. "She made me feel important when I felt like a failure. After losing my job, my sense of self-worth was at rock bottom. She convinced me I deserved more. This house, your inheritance, as compensation for my suffering." "Classic manipulation," Tom observed. "Find someone vulnerable and exploit their insecurities." "I'm just grateful I woke up before it was too late," Ryan said, raising his glass. "To second chances." We clinked glasses, the simple gesture symbolizing how far we'd come. In the months that followed, life continued transforming in positive ways. My marketing career flourished, making the mortgage payments manageable. Ryan faithfully contributed to repairs, working extra shifts to help compensate for the damages. Tom became a permanent fixture in my life, his quiet strength a perfect complement to my more emotional nature. The house evolved too. Not through Natalie's harsh, unauthorized demolition, but through thoughtful updates that honored its history while accommodating new memories. We repainted the living room in colors Mom would have loved, Replace the dated kitchen counters while keeping the cabinet layout Dad had designed. 1 year after the bedroom incident, we gathered for a memorial dinner on our parents' anniversary. The dining room table, salvaged and restored from the garage where Natalie had relegated it, held our family's good china and flickering candles. "I think Mom and Dad would be proud," Ryan said, looking around at the home we'd fought for and saved. "Not just of the house," I added, "but of us. How we found our way back to being family." Later that evening, after Ryan left, Tom and I sat on the porch swing Dad had built decades ago. "You know what I've learned from all this?" I said, watching fireflies appear in the gathering dusk. "Home isn't just walls and furniture. It's boundaries. It's standing up for what matters. It's knowing when to fight and when to forgive." Tom's arm tightened around my shoulders. "Your parents built more than a house. They built resilience in you. That's a legacy Natalie could never sell or destroy." As darkness settled, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing since my parents' death. The house remained, stronger for having been defended. My relationship with Ryan had evolved into something more honest. And in Tom, I'd found someone who understood that some places are sacred not because of their monetary value, but because of the memories they hold. Looking back, Natalie's entitled announcement about renovating my master bedroom marked both the worst betrayal and the beginning of reclaiming what mattered most. Sometimes, it takes someone trying to destroy your foundations to make you realize how strong they truly are. If you've ever had family members overstep boundaries or try to take advantage of your generosity, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Did you confront them directly or find creative ways to set limits? Leave a comment below. And if this story of standing up for yourself resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Share with someone who might need encouragement to protect their own boundaries. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember, sometimes the most important renovation isn't in your house, but in recognizing your own worth.